All right, hello everybody. How's it going? All right, in this tutorial video, guys, we are going to take it a step further. So you have become a little bit familiar with the Photoshop interface, and by now you understand the whole concept of layers and a few of the tools. But for the most part, you're still struggling around because even just making a collage can be kind of confusing if you're not used to what to do with different layers if you want to actually create a piece of artwork. So that's what this first video is all about. It's about creating something different. So this is going to be called the Pixel Perfect activity. Now, this activity does assume that you've finished all of the tutorials that we've done, all three sets, and you understand what you did and you're not totally confused, because I'm not going to use this as a tutorial on how to do what we're doing, but I am going to explain what we're doing. In this um, art activity, you guys are going to practice using layer masks, adjustment layers, and also how to work around the Photoshop interface in a more efficient manner by using keyboard shortcuts as opposed to going into the menu for every little thing. So I'm going to be walking you through that too. This is a do-along tutorial, so I encourage you, or you are required to pause this video and do what I'm doing when I say, otherwise you're not going to understand this. So as you can see in the couple of examples I have on our page, these are, digital art pieces. They're photographs that have been manipulated where one item or one part of the photo has been manipulated. So in this case, it's they've both been manipulated in a way where they look all pixely and low res. The one on the left is a flower. This is the one that I did. This one on the right, of the one with the glass of iced tea or whatever that is, was something I got from the internet. So I'm going to model how I got to this point and do it step by step. So let's get going. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to Photoshop and show you this version of what I'm working on right now. So this is a new version I'm working on, and it's not quite done yet. But as you can see, take a look at my layers panel, guys. I have an original layer. This is my unaltered imported image, okay? Up here, I have a copy of the image which has a filter applied to it, and then right next to it, you see a layer mask. And in addition to these two layers, there's two different adjustment layers. Adjustment layers are cool. They let you tweak your image without actually affecting the pixels. More about that when we have discussions during class. But essentially what I'm doing here is I'm creating a piece of art, a digital art, without actually affecting the original pixels of the image. Ladies and gentlemen, this is called non-destructive editing. And in this class, that's what we learn to do, and that's what we practice, because that's what the pros do. In our first level class, which most of you guys probably never took, that's when we do the easy stuff, the destructive editing, where you just use an eraser. So look at my eyeballs here. I'm going to go ahead and turn off all my layers except for my original one. And there's my original photo. Turning them back on, this is what I got. So what I've done here is I've pixelated the flower petals. So I will kind of go over how the technique on how to do this and tips and tricks. For now, I'd like you to pause this video, and what I'm going to ask you to do is think of a subject that you would like to import into Photoshop. Here are the tips and tricks. Look for something that is simple. Look for something that is filling the frame, okay? Like a face or something that actually dominates the scene. Remember, emphasis. That is a principle of design, right? So here this flower is emphasized in this image because it's filling the darn frame. Also, we got color contrast going on here. I love how the fuchsia flower petals are contrasting with the background, which is green. Those are opposites, right? So I want you to pause, and I want you to look for a high resolution image. You remember how to filter image searches in Google for different resolution levels. So you're going to open up the submenu that I showed you before. Going back here, if I was going to look for a flower, I would choose images. And I believe for you guys, if you're using Chrome, you're going to see a link called Tools. Since I'm using Edge, I have a link called Filter. They do the same thing. You go to image size and just try large. Here I have extra large, but large is fine. So anything in here would be good. Now, something like this would not be a good choice. You want to have a single dominant thing, like this flower here. Pause the video, download your image to your OneDrives and then go ahead and open it in Photoshop. All right, cool. So I'm going to assume that you're at this point. Now, the first thing I did with this image, I didn't like the composition of this flower. I wanted to crop it. So I actually cropped the image. So it's because I'm not using a different canvas and laying an image on top of it, I can just go ahead and use the crop tool. And this is preset to square, so I'm going to clear that. And I am going to do kind of a rule of thirds kind of a crop here, where this kind of like sunburst thing in the middle is almost kind of approaching getting to this cross section down here. All right, so I'm going to hit the check mark, and there's my crop. All right, so the first thing that you're going to do, guys, is do the setup. To set up this, we have to download some brushes. So what I'd like you guys to do is look on your palette on the left-hand side and click your brushes tool. Once you've done that, I'd like you to, let's see, I'm going to go to the properties panel, which isn't showing up here. So if you do not see the properties panel on your interface, you always go to the window menu and you choose it from here. So I'm going to choose properties. And it's alphabetical. Properties, there it is. Okay. And I'm going to dock this up here. Okay. This is just helpful for when I'm using my layers in a little bit. Okay. Notice that when you have your image here, notice if you click on your navigator, you should see the percentage here. Zoom it up to 100% if it's not already. It probably is. But zoom it to 100%. If it's bleeding off your screen, just reduce the size a little bit by clicking on this small mountain here or sliding down. Okay. So if you're looking at the navigator, you can, well, it doesn't show it here, but on the lower left-hand corner of your interface, your Photoshop interface is going to tell you the pixels and then the pixel resolution. So I'm at 72 pixels per inch. And notice how I have a ruler here. I want you guys to show your ruler. So go ahead and go to the View menu and choose Show. Whoops, actually, you just go straight to Rulers and click on Rulers. And it's going to show up. You want your rulers to be in inches. So if you mouse over the ruler itself, notice how I'm mousing over the ruler and I'm right-clicking. I get this little flyout menu and I can choose inches. That's what I'd like you guys to do. Okay, so we're set up there. Now we got to go ahead and grab our brushes. So remember, I had you guys grab the brush tool. The second thing I'm going to have you guys do is go over to the tool menu, or the tool, this little guy up here. Oops, not that one. Brushes. Okay, let me go ahead and collapse that. So I'm going to go to the brushes up here. Remember, this is my options bar. Window, and then I believe it's already up there. If you don't see options, there it is down there. Go ahead and just click on options. It's a little bit easier that way. So I'm going to load a brush. So I'm going to go to my flyout menu, and this little machine cog right here. Click on it, go to the bottom, and you're going to choose Legacy Brushes. And you'll get this dialog box, just hit OK. Okay, so you're loading a new set of brushes that you didn't have before. More on that in a moment. Well, the reason why, it will become apparent in a second. So let's load a brush. So when I click on my little brush icon here, I get something that looks like this. And what I'd like you to do is look at all the different folders you have here. I'm going to close them all. You should have a folder now that says Legacy Brushes. Go ahead and open it up. Scroll down and look for Square Brushes. Click on Square Brushes. Scroll down. Now I want you to click on a hard square. It doesn't matter the pixel size, but for fun, just choose 10. Okay. So you are getting set up. So if you look at your brush now, you will notice that it's a square shape, not a round shape. This is essential. Okay, let's get into some of our keyboard shortcuts here. I want you to look at your keyboard and I want you to find the brackets. The brackets are just to the right of the letter P. You have a left-hand bracket and a right-hand bracket. If you click on the right-hand bracket a bunch of times while watching your brush, notice how your brush gets bigger. Look at that. Now I'm going to go ahead and click on the left side of my bracket and my brush gets smaller. Now, isn't that better than going up to your brush menu and pulling up and down the size slider? Okay, so this is so much more intuitive. And there's more I could show you, but I don't want to overload you right now. let's finish getting set up. I'm going to go ahead and double click on my pane for my navigator to collapse it so I can see my layers panel. You want to see your layers panel nice and big. Let's right click over the layer itself, not the image icon, but to the right of the word layer 1, and just choose duplicate. You're going to get a dialog box and just hit OK. Now, whenever you work in Photoshop, you never want to destroy your original pixels. That's why we're doing this. So let's go ahead and let's have some fun with pixels. Now, there's two ways to pixelize an image automatically in Photoshop. I'm going to show you just the one that I did because it's a little bit more easy. It's kind of limiting, but it's easier. So follow with me. Let's go to the filter menu, and I'm going to introduce you to something called the filter gallery. You can also use these filter groups down here, but right now I want you to choose filter gallery. Once you've done that, pull this. I have two screens here going, so it's going to be kind of wonky. You're going to get another big box that shows up. All right, so let me see if I can enlarge this 100%. Okay, that's better. So you should see if your image is kind of small on the lower left-hand corner, you can choose your zoom level. Okay, we have not one, but 6 different folders that are named for different types of filters. Okay, filters like filters for social media. I'm going to go ahead and click on texture. So texture, once I open that up, I have 6 different main categories. I'm going to choose the one called patchwork. And all of a sudden, when you look at it, you're like, whoa, what happened to my image? It looks like a bunch of mosaic. Well, that is true. They look like a bunch of little mosaic with relief. In other words, it kind of looks 3D, all the little mosaics, right? Before you hit OK, I want you to look at these 2 sliders here. We have square size and something called relief. Relief means how 3D it kind of looks. I wish there were more options here, but there's not. Now for mine, my squares are pretty darn tiny. I want to make them as big as I can get. So I'm going to pull it way up. You may not like that. If you do that and you're like, I don't like it so chunky, you can pull it back a little bit. Relief, go ahead and pull it back and see if you kind of like it more flat, pull it to the left. If you like this 3D kind of like mosaic type, pull it towards the right. Go back and forth till you get kind of something that you think is nice. I'm going to go 2/3 the way up and I'm going to hit OK. All right, now we got a bunch of pixels. They're not really pixels, guys. It's a mosaic. And of course, if you mouse on your eyeball, you're going to go ahead and you're going to notice that the original image is still there. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, in the next tutorial, we're going to make sure you're at this stage. In the next tutorial, we're going to begin our masking and our artistic tools. So make sure you've got an image that's set up. When you're ready to go ahead and start the next part of the tutorial number 2. So I will see you there.